10 years ago in 2009, Samsung released the first 120Hz gaming monitor and gamers everywhere rejoiced. It was from there that every other manufacturer followed suit and made their own, or purchased Samsung's panel for their own brand. Ever since then, there's always been a refresh rate war, kind of like there's a console war where people think no human can see past 60 frames per second and that 60 is good enough. Well, I'm here to stir the refresh rate war somewhere in the world with this, the BenQ Zowie XL2540. You thought 144Hz was good enough? Think again. At 25 years old, I've used a lot of different monitors. I started PC gaming around 5 years old with games like Delta Force and Battlefield 1942, and those were on CRT monitors. During my teenage years, I've had some really cheap and crappy 720p and 1080p LCD monitors that just got the job done. Then around 2016, when I had enough money saved up, I got the Zowie XL2411. That monitor was my first real experience into the ultra-high refresh rate life. The moment I turned on that 144Hz option on the NVIDIA control panel, I remember thinking immediately, I just can't go back, and I never did. In fact, I actually went further with this, the BenQ Zowie XL2540. I bought the XL2540 about 2.5 years ago when I was really serious about going pro in CSGO. Since then, it's been really hard for me to switch to another monitor. It's like a drug to me. I've tried everything to get me to move on from this thing, and I mean everything. We're talking high quality Quad HD 144Hz displays, and I've tried a total of 7 different monitors, and I, no joke, ended up returning one every day of the week, one after another, that I was honestly surprised Micro Center didn't end up banning me. Now, to answer the main question you're all probably thinking, yes, you can notice a difference between 240 and 144Hz. However, it's not the same feeling you get going from 60 to 120 or 144Hz. But is it a big enough difference to where it's worth ditching your current 144Hz monitor to go to the 240? I want to say yes so bad to all of you, but we all look for different things in a monitor, so I can't say that just yet. So let's get right into the specs as well as my experience with this thing. The BenQ Zowie XL2540 is a 24-inch monitor. There is a 27-inch version, however 24 inches is the optimal size for competitive gaming since it lets you keep the entire game within your field of view. So if your main goal is to have as much of an edge as possible, go with a 24-inch option. The panel is a TN panel with a 1 millisecond gray to gray response time. So colors and viewing angles aren't as great as, say, a VA or IPS panel, but they're extremely good for a TN panel. When it comes to gaming though, none of this will really matter because you're going to want responsiveness, and you're sitting right in front of the monitor anyways. Now colors out of the box were pretty good, and there wasn't much I needed to do to get a color profile I was going to be happy with. Ports on the bottom include a DVI-D, HDMI, and DisplayPort. On the side it has 2 USB 3.0 ports as well as a headphone and microphone jack. You have swivel, height, pivot, and tilt adjustments. There are also placement markers that allow you to remember exactly how you had the monitor set up if someone were to ever change it or if you ever needed to pack it up for, say, a LAN center or something. There is a nice amount of attention to detail that went into the design that helps this monitor's overall function beyond the display itself. For example, there are extremely grippy pads on the bottom so it won't slip anywhere. The screen is a matte finish and is very anti-glare, so you most likely won't see any reflections, if any at all. There's a carrying handle built into the stand, which makes it very easy to carry around. It has 100 by 100 VESA mounting support in case you want to mount it to a monitor arm or a stand. It has angled edges to avoid reflections. It has a wire routing hole on the bottom of the stand to keep cables going through one place, making cables look less messy. There's a built-in retractable headset holder to place your headset when you're done. And last but not least, the Zowie Shield. The shield is meant to prevent distractions and help you focus on the game, mainly used in LAN centers and tournaments, but I put mine on because it makes me feel cooler than I actually am. Now let's talk about the performance of this beast and the features that really distinguish this monitor from anything else. One key feature that really excels on the competitive aspect is the black equalizer. This allows you to raise the brightness of dark areas in games like Shadows, for example, allowing you to see enemies in dark areas a lot easier while not overexposing the rest of the scene. I simply cannot emphasize how amazing and well executed this is. Normally I keep shadows on in my games because sometimes it can actually give away an enemy position and I can pre-fire them, giving me the advantage. But if you're the kind of person who turns off the shadows in games because of how well enemies blend in behind those dark scenarios, you won't have to deal with that anymore with this monitor. Then we have color vibrance. This allows you to saturate the colors of the monitor. The reason why this is useful is because with games like CSGO, Arma, Siege, and PUBG with desaturated color schemes, this can help you distinguish an enemy quicker from its background so you can react quicker. Other screen options are a low blue light option. You can adjust the blue light here instead of going to your color settings and manually turning down the blue color setting. And the last noteworthy screen feature here is AMA, or Advanced Motion Acceleration. When enabled, it drives more voltage to the liquid crystals so that they would align into place to produce an image much faster. The goal of this is to have reduced trailing and motion blur for fast action scenes. And while we're still on the subject of the display, Zowie advertises that the screen's typical brightness is about 400 nits. They lied on that claim though, because I've seen a good amount of tests that show that it's actually 450 nits. It's not often you get an understated figure. Next, we have the S-Switch. Now what is this thing? It's amazing is what it is. No one wants to constantly change their monitor settings when they're doing something different. What the S-Switch allows you to do is change the colors, black levels, and the previously aforementioned black equalizer, and have different profiles set to up to 3 preset buttons. I don't only play games on my PC. I also watch videos and movies, and the S-Switch allows for me to switch between profiles instantaneously so I can have a better overall experience without having to fumble between settings every time I do something different. This is one of my favorite features about this monitor. It's one of those things where I thought it was a gimmick when it first came out, but after using it, I was like, why doesn't every other manufacturer have this? So that's it then. You should go right ahead and buy it, right? Future me coming here to interrupt the past me. While I was editing this video, I realized that I completely missed why 240 Hz makes a difference. Like I've said everything else, but for some reason I just forgot to write in the script why 240 Hz makes that big of a difference. So point number 1, feedback from your input is quicker. When you aim or click your mouse, the input displayed is much quicker on your display, which brings me on to point number 2. Everything you do feels more precise. When using a lower refresh rate display, there's the type of smoothing effect that you're going to get compared to a higher refresh rate display because it's not updating as quick, making you less accurate, or just not as immersed into a situation. And point number 3, which is a pretty obvious one, is that you're going to be able to react faster because that information is being updated to your eyes a lot quicker. And as an added bonus, you're going to get less motion blur, which is pretty much just the nature of a 240 Hz display. However, this isn't to say you will notice a difference going from 144 to 240. There have been people that I've met that just can't tell the difference from 144 Hz to 240, and those are the kind of people that just don't play games generally, other than Farmville, which doesn't really count. So those are pretty much the differences going from 144 to 240 Hz. There aren't that many talking points, however, in those points that you do get, they are pretty massive, especially if you can notice a difference. Back to past me. So that's it then. You should go right ahead and buy it, right? Slow down there. There are a couple of drawbacks. First one being its resolution. It's only 1080p. Currently there are no 2K 240 Hz displays, so you won't be able to have the crispness and the productivity of a 2K or 4K monitor. At least not yet. Lenovo did show off their 2K 240 Hz display earlier this year, but it's not out yet and no one has a clue on how it'll actually perform. Secondly, color accuracy. Now, I don't want to give you the impression that the colors are terrible, because they're not. They're pretty good for gaming and casual video viewing. But if you're the kind of person who wants a great cinematic experience, or does video or photo editing, you're better off getting a high refresh rate IPS display, or having this alongside a second display for your videos and professional work. Third, you need a beefy PC to run this monitor to its fullest potential, and beefy PCs aren't cheap. If you're not running games at 240 frames, you're just not going to get the full benefits that the monitor offers. Lastly, there's price. At $400, it's not cheap. There are cheaper 240 Hz options out there, but keep in mind you will be missing a lot of the features that this has, such as the black equalizer, the color vibrance, and the S-Switch. Aside from all that though, do I think it's worth spending more for this compared to say a 1080p or 2K 144 Hz display? Well, if you were planning on getting a 240 Hz monitor in the first place, then this is the one to get. There's a reason why esports professionals not only choose this monitor during tournaments, but also for their personal displays as well. The extra features you get here are either just not available anywhere else, or just don't work as well, and it does make a world of difference. Now, I've watched a lot of reviews on this monitor before making this video, and a lot of other reviewers said this is the kind of monitor that you should only get if you're trying to go pro or if you're extremely competitive. So I should say the same here, right? Wrong. If you're lucky enough to take advantage of a return policy and give this a try before going for another monitor, you need to give this one a shot. There's no harm in trying it out, and if you're not completely happy with it, you can always return it for something else, which is exactly what all my friends did when they asked for monitor recommendations. Except they didn't return it, they actually ended up loving it and keeping it. So that's it, guys. If you liked the video, please leave a thumbs up. If you disliked that video, well, that button works too. Consider subscribing if you guys like to see future videos, as I'm always getting better editing and figuring out new ways to make better videos. Other than that, I hope you guys learned something, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.